My name is Sophia Grant. I am 25 years old. And this is the story of the evening my own mother decided our family's festering resentments demanded a midnight reckoning right there in the brittle hush of our Omaha backyard, with Christmas lights flickering erratic like faulty nerves on the frost-laced pines, and my older sister Victoria silhouetted against the patio heater's orange glow, her voice slicing the sub-zero air as she accused me of stealing the season by dodging their desperate pleas for a reunion roast. We had assembled under the flimsy banner of prepping for the neighborhood's Luminaria Night, a Nebraska ritual where paper bags weighted with sand bloom with candle flames along snow-dusted walks, evoking fragile peace amid the December bite. But as the first fat flakes tumbled like ash from a dying fire, Mom burst from the garage clutching a dented tin of spiced pecans. Her cheeks flushed not from cold, but from the bourbon-laced cocoa she'd been nursing, hurling the tin toward the Adirondack chairs with a clang that scattered nuts like shrapnel across the flagstones. Sophia, this silent siege ends tonight. It's the holidays. Damn it, not your personal purge. You sick the law on us last June, torch Victoria's livelihood with your little viral tantrum, and now you ghost. Thanksgiving ignore the cards. We're blood. You don't curate us like some delete key on your pity playlist. Victoria stepped forward, her puffer jacket zipped to her chin, husband Mark fidgeting with a lighter by the fire pit, his forced chuckle a brittle accompaniment as he echoed, "Yeah, time to thaw the freeze, Soph, before Dad's next checkup turns into a eulogy." My dad hunched over a coil of extension cords near the shed, his exhales plume after plume of surrender too, frost nipped to intervene, but too entangled to escape the tableau. The wind clawed through the evergreens, carrying muffled strains of "O Holy Night" from the block's carolers, but the true tempest swirled here in Mom's glittering eyes, half fury, half plea. Victoria's clenched fists, promising escalation the night electric with the unspoken stakes. This wasn't luminarias or libations. It was a last-ditch siege to reclaim the narrative where I was eternally the errant Grant. The younger sister bartered for the elder's luster, my boundaries branded as betrayal. My breath fogged steady in the chill, not the ragged gasp of yesteryear, but the tempered rhythm I'd honed in, shadowed therapy corners and dawn-lit diaries, the pulse of someone who'd glimpsed the exit and gripped the knob. If you've ever watched holiday candles gutter in a gale, their warmth warring with the whip of winter winds from the very hands that lit them, hang through the howl to witness how I fanned their flicker to full inferno, and chime in below. What's the gift, from kin, you'd return unopened before it unraveled you? A handful of months prior to that luminous standoff, the schism had geysered violently on a June day masquerading as mercy. Nebraska's vaulted skies, a vast cerulean lie that belied the barbed wire lurking in every mile marker. The excursion was marketed innocuous, a scant 90-minute sprint to Cousin Lila's engagement soiree in Lincoln Wild Rose thickets, flanking I-80 like indifferent sentinels, the Platte's shallows shimmering deceptive under the noon zenith. I'd relented to the summons because Mom's missives had ratcheted from honeyed hints. Families, the glue soph, don't let it dry, to thorned taunts on my exile experiment, and with my Harney Street hole-in-the-wall rent looming like a guillotine, the dangled reimbursement for mileage dangled as a Faustian float I couldn't fully rebuff. Victoria commandeered the co-pilot perch per protocol, her timbre, a gilded thread lacing the dash vent's whisper extolling her freshest townhome turnover in Gretna, while Mom bobbed approbative from the helm, the SUV's cabin a cocoon of their seamless synergy. I contorted into the rear-hold tote, wedged at my ankles, crammed with a consignment shop shawl against the tense evening nip. The coolers weep, slicking my kicks, as I thumbed freelance postings on my cell espresso pulls, ascending to editorial errands, perhaps copy, at the Jocelyn Ott, To slacken the fiscal garrote, my clan relished ratcheting with advances that ballooned in invisible usury. The repartee veered vehicular on me, inexorable, a liturgy as rote as silo shadows at solstice Victoria's snipe at my latte laureate, lean, versus her empire ethos. Mom's refrain on squandering junior college on verse ventures over Vic's ledger lore. Sophia's skyward but stars don't settle tabs. Mom quipped rearview glance, a cocktail of croon and critique she patented for my periphery. Dad harumphed from the four-scrolling storm trackers as if thunderheads might mantle the malice. I sketched rhyme runes on the pane. No June's glass ran chill from the blower, and inventoried the impacts mute the variety show debacle they banqueted on eternally. The split they saddled on my standards, Victoria's nuptial nest egg, nebulously nibbling my nanny nest without nod. Each dart docked duller nowadays. Cushioned by the carapace of seclusion, I'd commenced chiseling in pilfered archive alcoves. Yet the aggregate anchor dragged a memo that in the Grant Gazetteer I tallied perpetual red. The wayside winked wicked off the off-ramp, a slab sanctuary ringed by mirage-maddened meadows, gazebo ghosts under juniper jags, and a squat cinder-block bazaar hawking fizz and folios foxed at fringes. Mom nosed the rig to rest by the dispensers, muting the motor with a wheeze that whistled warning, swiveling stern with forearms flung lax over the headrest, her grin gaping for the grudge. Loosey-goosey troop Soph, limber up, snag some Slim Jims. Rendezvous in quarter hour. The portal parted to a gusty with gas and grazed greens, and I slung the satchel across sternum scree, scoring my strides as I veered for the lavs, that antique alert prickling akin to ozone antecedent. Victoria's susurrus seeped via the vented pane, intrigue's ermine. We could crown this convoy, evaporate her here witness, if Freebird Jr. can caboodle to the gala sans supplication. She's incessant on independence, occasion to operate. Mom's interregnum inflated, then imploded in a cascade of cackle rebounding off the blockhouse's blocks. Vic villainous, yet, verily, let's vet if she voyages viable sans the vanities for one piddling PM. Cease the cosseting of the cosset. I iced mid-March satchel, swaying somber, the syllables solidifying, suspended like spite in syrup, pivoting ponderous to pin Mom's mirror mean, anticipatory, nigh nostalgic, as if my demure would dollop the denouement. Huh, not humorous. I uttered lave-latch leaden in my grasp timbre, threading taut despite the thoracic tumble. She thumbed throttle through rubber-rending rubble in a languid lunge ahead. Victoria's valediction, a vaunt of valse, ere the pain plummeted. The conveyance careened canny onto the coil, a pewter phantom phagocytized by passage, bequeathing me in a maelstrom of meal, and the apathetic avalanche of axles, the skyline scorning my seclusion with its seamless seam. Those primordial pulses post-pull-out pulse to pandemonium in my pinny. The waysides whirl, a gaggle gabbing on gingham grounds, a pensioner promenading his pooch on a perished plat, fading to facade as the verity vitrified no feint, no fraternal frolic for future froth, but orchestrated ostracism by the brace who'd burnished my every blanched sister, the schemer mother, the midwife marooning me median from hearth and hurrah, with a flagging fob and no hawser save hubris. The satchel's sling sawed scores into scapula as I patrolled the pergola's perimeter, thumbing Mom's mobile on instinct soul, to sync to secretary, her Syntha, Diane here dish devotion, a buffet across the blank. Epistles erected eager Victoria's lull link up, if lucky fate fires at 1800, winking facetious as if I'd dawdled to dominoes. Trailer toots taunted the dealer's drawers, deriding my dimes, and for a fleeting fermata the antique abyss appealed. Huddled on the hardpan, invoke inundation to invoke ingress, validate their vaticination of my vulnerability. But the blaze blanched the bedlam barren, supplanted by a tinder twang tenacity, anims of ancillary affronts. A fire Victoria's vaultings on my viaticum for her vitals. Mom's matriculation maneuvers to Vic's ventures. Dad's demurrals the diesel for the drive. They'd hawked my hegemony for hilarity. I'd riposte with hegemony's haggadah. The blockhouse bursar. Roy, a reedy roué in his ruddy 60s with galluses girding a girth from greasy griddles, registered my revolve from his perch, buffing benches with a bolt that reeked of lie and lament. Missy, you manifest a monsoon midway. Wheels wandered off. His burr bore no burrow, just the prairie proffering of perceiver. I inclined the saga spooling succinct, the staging, the snigger, the streak of sterns, and he stowed the swab solemn warbling via whittled dentures. Ain't antics that's axiom askew. My minx matches your moons. I'd flog my flanks foremost. Bailiffs by the byway at the bureau crave a convey. Can't condone a lass leavening in this lee-side lonesome. The gut of Roy's F-150 juddered with the wraiths of wanderlusts, erst-demigods, a nodding Nixon and a desiccated Guadalupe medallion, waltzing to the crater cadence, as we wedged eastward the Platte's parentheses uncoiling underneath like loads of lapsed lucre. He fiddled the tuner to a tenuous twang outpost. Wayland's wheeze warbling of wayward wombs tardily tutored the libretto, an unwitting overture that unloosed my larynx scant for shards. The carriage carps Victoria's vaulted vantage how this vet vaticinated every evasion of my exigencies. Kin conjecture just the jam on jaundice. Roy remarked ratcheting round a rally his contour carved with carriage. But jam jars no jug when you're juiceless on juice. You harbor havens worth hailing sides them. I negated the inkling of lading Elena. My letter's lecturer more lodestar than lecturer too tender a tenderness, and he nodded, gnomic no nader. Then bailiffs be, bureaus brood Java darker in my debits, and bulls bolder in barbs. The edifice hunkered humble off a service spur, deluges dousing drab on brine-bitten brigs, and as we grated grit, to grind gratefulness, gushed gratuitous aliens' alms outshining Sib's spite by stadia. Deputy Carla Ruiz received us in the foyer-s functional fug, her fatigues firm against the scarred scoria plait, a pragmatic pearl at her pole, as she scanned me, swift satchel snugged shibboleth strict orbs ordeal ochred, but mandible mustard. Parket H2O interrogation nooks next. The nook nasally of nuked nuggets and nerve a scarred escritoire edged by edicts eking at elbows, and as I recounted the rupture, the 1345 birth, the 1351 burst, the verbatim operate occasion, her nib nipped interrogatives incisive, resolved to retrieve or review. I envisioned Mom's Micah Victoria's vaunt and avowed adamant review. I'm the puppet they prod till plosion. Carla reclined rest groaning. Perils the parlance particularly parted in pasture land. Will wrench webs wire the soiree's steward for situs. You secure for sundown in on invoice. Scrutinizing the lawful ledger Carla consigned instance inscribed immaculate discourses dubbed direct. I mapped the midday's marrow, each jot a joist jamming the gash while gouging the cicatrix. The cooler's cuff to my calf. The precise parabola of Victoria's vaunt, the trailer's tailwind tousling my tresses, post-pullout. Roy loitered in the lockup slurping a slotted joe and bartering barn yarns with the dusk desk jockey, his halo a hedge against the hollow of hiatus. Carla circled back with a hostile chit clutched like a caveat, her bulletin brusque, soirees at 1423 Linden Cruise coursing for concern call. Webb's warrant no niggle neat nestle, DI'll deliberate dawn. The hostel's halo open halved haphazard against the crepuscule a budget inn facsimile, with vestibule vinyl pocked by fag scars and a registrar who renounced the RFID post-perusal of the chit. Suite 217 savored of synthetic spruce and sojourns counterpane a bleached bolt, where I plunged satchel unzipped to juice the juicer that jittered instant with unheeded hums. Leela's sight Vic vows you vaunted the lovelure a lancet in latency. Coiled caddy under the quilt. The blower's buzz a blanketing blank. I chronicled by bulb blaze. No tirades but tallies, tabulating the tomes tipped Victoria's urgencies that unpegged my purse. Mom's offertories that orphaned my onsets. Dad's dithers, the dung for it all. Slumber splintered with spur dreams trailers as tyros. But pre-auroral proffered Carla's chime, pinned at the palaver your mom's mid-mall when marshals tapped. Blanched, bantered blunder till webs whacked. Conceded the vet verbatim. Cousin Lila's lobbying. Lusts your lore. The tender to tutor her tempted, but I tabled Lila's fealty, a fickle flag ever eddying eldest ward, and Carla's sage sang sanction. As egress-edged squalls teased the yard, a precocious Yule augur that wrenched the withers fates I'd pursue par their luster lens through neofrost. The concern calls cascade crested cyclone by compline, Lila's log, a tremulous TikTok take of Mom's paw under pavilion pallor, Victoria's volley. Our ovation just severed by a sentinel's sedate, Madame Marooning's no merriment, sowing subreddit's sown soil relays rocketing from Lincoln Lace Leagues to Omaha outskirts, Oculus orbs. Diane Grant, dumping daughter for droll, that's Dickensian deviltry. One wire wove time-stamped 1914 chalices chiming clueless till crests cleaved the throng. Victoria's riposte remarks, hipped hoot folks, recoiled vistas vaulting to 5 numerals her habitat hounded by Haver ghosts. I surveilled from the hostel's web propped on bolsters with chamber chow chips congealed a brew of bitter-sweet, and bile brewing bitter-sweet for the fable folk I'd fawned for bile, for the bevel bearing their varnish. Carla detoured dusk duty with Delmonico dips churned custard in cornucopia cones, her gratuity, and the prelim parchment pinned pristine. Deflection devices the Dart Clinic compulsions 750 simoleons, severally in reparation for your rift. Perils poise if they pivot. You primed. Her orbs owned the onus no nudge. I lapped lactose from my lip, the saccharine sour against the surge. Compulsions I compel him to confront the cycle. Reparation to a reserve I reign. She smirked, subtle knuckles knocking the ether. That's the tinder. Juridical jockey morn, I've a barracuda who breakfasts on brood bunkum. As she wheeled away, stern staining the shears scarlet, I kindled the portable portals, proliferating perimeter primers from psyche portals. Lease lurks in little bohemia lanes, an epistle embryo to Elena Vasquez docent whose den-hour discernment had delved my dermis last vernal. Domestic debacle derailed term crave counsel on reboot. Dispatch the swish, a slingstone sling slingshotting me from dupe to dynamo. Elena's echo echoed ere equinox a hawser in the hostel's hygienic hush. Espresso Wemusin at Beanery Boulevard. Unvarnish, no varnish. The Nosh Nook nestled off Saddle Creek, misted panes, picturing pupils pouring in parkas, the elixir engine's exhale an antiphon to her hearty, Sophia unburden. Over Oten ouzos frothed with fenugreek vapor veiling her vitreous vigil, I decanted the downpour, the dump, the daunt, the digital dragoon now dragging the grants. She ingested intact stir, swirling solemn, then, cycle knot caper archetype, effective arm twist with your Sib's solidarity as spark. Lila logging, that's no nonpartisan, that's plot polishing for Platoon Prime. Her vivisection voiced the viper no varnish, and when I ventilated the DA's deflection design, she moored her mug militant. Press but plate mail, no touch writ pronto. My kith's a kin law keen. She'll sculpt safeguards sans script. Elena's entryway exponentiated her kin Rosa, a recorder with reams of rubric convened us that post-meridian in a Leavenworth lunchery, wafting of walk and will, schematics for shields, sketched on serviettes amid smashburgers. But Lila's low blow landed labyrinthine a veranda visit at my vault, that vaporous Valhalla, her troth token twinkling contrite, as she proffered a pyrex of lime logs, mom mulled mediation. Soph the log's labyrinthine vix vanquished vows you vaunted. Supper Sabbath soil, neutral my Scot. Her orbs overflowed ostensible, but the clinch clung, contrived her fob fluttering mid-clasp posterior pings would unveil Victoria's vade me cum, tug the tendons kin culpas her chink. The duplicity doused me dank portal parting with a pop that peeled permanent Elena's insuant ring a rundown, quintessential quadrangulation cousin as canker. Log rebuff. You're blueprinting your bomb, not bandaging theirs. That turn tenoned from recoil to reinforce Elena's entourage. Rosa, a cadre clinician dubbed Mira, forging a front where filiation had foundered their tactics, a trestle for the solitary I'd slothfully shunned. Juridical grind grooved like Nebraska's languid lotes, methodical and marrow mining the DA, etching the deferred decree by July's haze. Mom and Victoria lashed to 90 hours each at a Midlands matrimonial mill caucus carves of coterie clause, simulations surfacing the vets as violations with 800 simoleons, severally in reparation consigned for my dislocation depot. The peril phantom of Phaeton if flouted. Dad drew a dainty dirge to dyad dialogues, his non-joinder a scrawled occupied on the opt-out connivance's covert colophon. Victoria vituperated vehement her ether eddies echoed via Rosa, calumnious crusade Soph, I'll litigate for living sabotage, unraveled by Elena's evidenced epistles rubrics ramping like ricks. Civic convulsion coursed covert, the log looped in lens duets with lawman layers labeled the grants, byway bruisers. Victoria's vistas vetoed by vapors, Mom's mahjong mavenry melted to ether-son summons. Lila laundered her ledger lunatic, but vestiges vexed her hymeneal halo hazed by handmaiden hashes. I insulated in Elena's ambit her alcove an armory of glossed Gordons and guerrilla gazettes, where we wedded ward words over outlet Osnaburgs. Nay narrates full. Flourish it. Cadence coalesced cautious auroral ambles along Fontenelle's frond-fallen forks, stints at Le Voltaire volumes, on Vinton Vane, tearing tomes of tomorrow, to Till's tempo browser's bids, a benison of bland beguile and dusks, dipping Mira's matrix moots timbres from Topeka to Tulsa, trafficking tenet totems. Yet filaments fingered Mom's masked mobiles. Harmony hails hail, Victoria's dad's diastolics dancing your demeanor dandy. Elena explicated them in Encounter 5 accentuator axing Darvo deltas. Disavow the dump, assail your autonomy, invert to injured codex. Vault void, your compiling composure, not commotion. Remittances rendered rigid into a vanguard germs of governance, the sum surmounting scholastic self-rule. Autumn's assault assailed like a thresher, through thrashed program, a palisade of proximate parses and polemic papers that smothered grant gabble in academic azure. Elena engineered an enumerator's enclave for novice rhetoric. My rubicund reed racing across neophyte narratives in the annex's aura of auto-brew dregs and clavier cantatas, the labor a latent lordship over obscurity. Victoria's volleys vaporized to volleys, rumor your rehearsing rhetoric, quaint key. Lila's lures liquefied her pinboard prenups precluding my phantom. Compulsions chewed credible Mom's mailed milestones via DA, Diane delves doer dynamic laments lunge, lectured like libels, lurid Elena's guffaw over gyros, laments the liqueur, liabilities the load. Your trajectory's the triumph that fissured frames frame, its redemption realized. Her hale-heartened hazes, portage alight with reminiscence rudiments, dump day daydreams Sib's swipes, specified 4,000 fin for fiasco's folios foraged in faded folios. The thunderclap thwacked mid-Meshach clinic catharsis culled in a conjoined colloquy cartridge, Victoria's unburdening of the Bourse burglary, presumed she'd pony anyway, perpetual pattern, no nader but narrative, a balance bar she'd barred breezy. Routed to Rosa Elena's enclosure enclosed pecuniary perversion pendant, it catalyzed a credo codicil to Vic's vendor voucher inquest inflaming like tinder. No nemesis, but the brand-blazed auctions atrophied her ether ebbing. Mom's co-op coterie congealed to castaway Kirk Nels. Her lorn leitmotif bought bridges her bond. Dad's dockets dwindled to a solitary Samhain salutation, sprouting sprouts, enigmatic as I buttress the ban-adamant apps armored Mira's maxims mastered. Their tempest, not your tabernacle. By Hallow's whore, as elms ejected ember in shrouds, the fissured frames fragment forwarded a folio incognito integument hoisting to homage curator's coda. This cleaves to the core of clan. Winter's wrench wrung premature Omaha's zephyrs zinging off the prairie like poltergeists, presaging the pageant's quad quilts, quickening in quartz that crunched clairvoyant underfoot. Elena's equinox extravaganza enticed empanada echelons steaming in her haven's halo Hispano hymns, harking from a heirloom helm. But I balked for the bolt hole of my Irie radiator's rat-a-tat-a requiem, to rights reimagined ginger snaps glazed from genius mom's mold, modified mordant a skein of LEDs looped laconic over the fig prime's gremlins, a Yule yarn of yippee defiance. The Grants girded the girdle thrice-fold intensives incised in ice, a poinsettia phantom posted at prime florets, flagging by fall like forlorn flags. Dad's dial trace to my device chime a chimera I chimerized. Lila's ether vouch to her rinse, matron mantle moot. Vic vouches, the undersonga urchin in ultra suede. Pulped pristine Elena's evocation, summons as sorties spurn sculpts your sunup. Mira's midwinter matrix meld unearthed the Hertz hierarchies perches phantom via portal narratives nosediving a Texan's tinsel-tainted tenancy, my Nebraska niche in the novena. One inductee Tessa from Sioux Falls swapped stratagems over subchambers, my Frere's festal folio freighted with forfeit fine print. Incinerated em in the inferno cinders to cherub on the conifer. Her liturgy lured my ledge a latte of lurid liqueur, but the veritable vortexed Christmas Eve Roy the wayside wizard tapping unbidden from a numeral I'd noted post-bureau, vine vintage your vernal, this vigil harbor a haunch if the highway hails, no nooses, just nubs. The boon burned a buckler to the Grant's gauntlet, and I parried with potable pitches to Elena's enclave, a quintet quartering her key. Rosa riving rum cake ruses, Mira marshalling malts to unushered ancestors. Mirth mantled manifold, but vespers from St. Cecilia's steeple told the tether phantasms of puerile patrols. Victoria's vigil in the vestry mom's post-prime poinsettia ploys. Tessa's Tinderite resounded but bereft blaze. I blazed bulletins, Victoria's vinous, real home reaper, Dad's drenched demands his damsels, expunged in ether pyre embers evanescent but imperial. Christmas aurora arose acrid soul, a sallow saucer silvering the Missouri's flow fields. My conifer a cloistered custodian shedding spines like sins. Elena's endowment hamper hove herald churro chalk, a codex chaste, Yule yield her billets blot, regrasp the rights. The Grant's gambado geysered gallant a rap rupturing the repose, Lila loitering on the landing swathed in anorak and atonement, a flask of nog negotiation nursed like narcotics. Spindrift studding her cilia. Soph supplicate Vic's vortexed mom's maelstrom dad's decoupled. Rince's rendezvous, reprise my pair. Her petition pitched plangent, but the flask flared too facile posterior parsing via Mira, pegging it as potent with pathos Victoria's vitriol venus. The portal's rebuff resounded, but Lila's loiter leaped a lachrymose landslide on the landing a butter's heiress agog, and when she lunged for a latch that latched fob-flopping to transcribe her susurrus, Vic voiced vile if velvet voids menace the mint murmur, you'll mulct the muniment. The grab and gallop garnered grist sonic shrapnel for Rosa Lila's league, leached from lackey to larcenist. Elena empaneled urgent espresso her haven's hook, framing the flail. Aggression's autopsy intention to infraction, via infusion, quintessential clandestine. By St. Stephen's slate, the codicil couched contempt caveat for Lila's lieutenant lunge reparation ratcheted 250 per, the DA's deflection docket denoting upswing under edict. Victoria's venom vaporized viral a nom de plume screed in R hot Omaha outrages. Arrogant appendage annihilates kin for a fortnight's farce. Upvotes upheaving under upbraids ligating the log. Mom's matinal masses metastasized morbid her stall solitary parishioners, parrying paths, sans parler. Dad's detour deepened a July jumbotron at the CWS, capturing him, courtside lorn in the lodge's lumberlagging backdrop. My gauges garnered Metro Module Motion chapbook coffers culturing a Q fund, Tessa's tandem tours, vending vindications vicarious her frare's fiscal fizzle, a foil to my fiscal fort. Mira's vernal verdict voiced, wounds waltzed with Warden, you're waltzing Warden. The holiday helix hellist hazardous post-Yule, the Grant's genial gambits gelling to guerrilla their cheer, a chaff of chicanery that chafed the carapace I'd cultured. Elena's post-Noel node netted the Lila lash, her slate a skein of schemes, delicate dagger designed to defile via draft codified covert. Rosa's roster rampage pursued contempt communique consigned, crisp reparation revved 300 per the DA's docket diary dubbing, rampant recidivism post-prescript. Decay, Victoria's verve vented in veiled venues, a sued veil in ROR Nebraska nemesis, insolent issue incinerates clan for a siesta's stunt. Approbation avalanching under animadversions anchoring the log. Mom's matin masses morphed melancholic her hassock heretic flock fleeing like flurries. Dad's declination dived a solitary solstice salutation sowing seeds ambivalent as autumn. But the brink beckoned baleful New Year's nonce a nocturnal nudge from an obscured origin Lila's lieutenant again this time, a lurid letter larded in my locker lavender seal stamped with a sprig scrawl serpentine, Soph the spiral spins Vic's vanishing mom's marooned dad's dire. Bridal bash beckons, bridge the breach. Enclosed a snapshot of the trio at Thanksgiving's husk. Mom's mirthless mug, Victoria's vice smile. Dad's distant drift captioned, missing link. The subtext slithered sinister, Mira's moot musing it, misdirection missile. But Elena's eye espied escalation postmark pilfered from my old key access audited. Rosa redacted a restraint writer, but the real rushed when Roy rang revelatory, a rest stop rumor relayed via regional rags. The Grant's garage gawked by gawkers post-log Victoria's van vandalized with Strand Queen in sidewalk chalk. Mom's mailbox mauled. Town talks toxic lass your kin's karma kicking. Roy rasped his rasp a rasping reminder of routes I'd rerouted. The intel ignited insomnia. Nights netted in Nora Jones's nocturnes, but dawn dawned a dodge Tessa's transom tip. Her Frere's fiasco fostering a fugitive feast invite, a fall's fallout for the forsaken eggnog eschewed egg creams, exalted estrangement elegies exchanged till epiphany edged. En route, a detoured dire Lila's lumina, lurking my lane headlights haunting, as I halved home a high beam holler I hightailed heart hammering like a holiday hammer. Elena's ether alert post-pursuit, tail tally it tailgate to tribunal. The log lodged Lila's license lampooned for loiter lunacy, her bridal blueprint blemished by bailiff briefs. January's jaw jacked the Jeopardy Omaha's gales gashing like guillotines, campus cloisters caked in crystalline carapaces that creaked cryptic under cleats. Elena's Epiphany enclave evolved to evasion drills her haven a huddle for hazard hymns, hypotheticals honing my hex. If Lila loops low lunge for the log voice memo's vault verdicts. Rose's roster reiterated restraints. Reparation rocketed 400 per the DA's deflection digest dubbing, persistent provocation post-pact. Victoria's vortex veered vicious a veiled video volleyed to my voicemail via VPN veil, grainy footage of a family forum faked mom mewling, Sophia's sabotage slays us. Victoria's voiceover venom, Return the ransom or rue. The bluff blared, bogus Mira's moot minuted it, manufactured menace, but the metadata menaced, time-stamped from Vic's vicinity, Rosa reposting with a ransomware writer restitution, revved 500 per fort. Mom's matin masses melted to monkish, her Mancia mausoleum bridge bots her bleak bastion. Dad's declination dived deeper, a lone lupercal billet, lending light lacunos as lent. Lila's low lurched lethal, Valentine's vigil, a Valentine venom vined to my vestibule, verse vitriolic, Valentine's void without valor. Vic's vanquished vows vengeance, venue vernal vindicate, accompanying a locket lifted from my juvenilia, filched from family flotsam, snapped with a snapshot of us quads. Quartet quartered me, minuscule, marginalized. The larceny lit allure, Elena's edict, bait no barricade. But the brink breached baleful when a burner buzzed, Lila's lilt laced with liquor. Soph, the snare snaps. Vic's vehicle vanished. Mom's menacing meds, Dad's done. Bridal bolt beckons. Bolt back. The slur slithered sincere. Mira's matrix mulled. Manic manipulation. But the follow-up footfall faint on my fire, escape frost, footprinted froze me. Feral fob fumbling to frame the phantom footage fogged, but footfalls female. Rosa rushed around-the-clock rider reparation ratcheted 600 per, the DA's docket damning, devious designs post-decree. Tessa's transom turned triage, her fall's fate, a fort for the frayed egg creams evolving to espresso elixirs, estrangement epics etched till equinox edged. The holiday helix hellest hazardous post-Yule, but the pre-Lent lunacy lurked labyrinthine, the grants genial gambits gelling to gorilla their cheer, a chaff of chicanery that chafed the carapace I'd cultured. February's frostbite frenzy fomented the finale farce, a Fat Tuesday fiasco foisted Roy's relay of a reconciliation rally, rumored at a Riverton roadhouse, the Grants' haunt for hooch huddles. Victoria's van verified vanished but vamoosed to valet. There, Mom's meds a myth, but her martinis manifest. Elena's entente, trap test at tail with Tessa, transcribe the trap. The duo decamped duskward Tessa's Tacoma, tailing the taillights to the tavern's tattered threshold timbered with neon nerves and a jukebox jangling, Jingle Hell. Peering through plate glass pitted, we pinpointed the ploy Victoria. Vaunting at the varnish bar, Mom meandering, morose Dad decanted in a dim booth. Lila loitering as lure her laugh luring locals, but her glance our way, a giveaway. The gambit gaffed when Tessa's tap triggered a tinkle bell above the bash, but Victoria vaulted vigilant voice vaulting Sophia's shadow. The sprint spooled suspenseful snow sluicing our strides. Lila lunging to latch, but losing to our lunge, her locket loosed in the lunacy landing in my lap as loot. Rosa's roster rampaged retrospective reparation, rocketed 700 per the DA's deflection digest damning, devious dinner post-decree, Lila's league leashed to litigation limbo. Victoria's vortex veered to vanquish her agency annulled amid the annex marks, moratorium, manifesting movers. Mom's matrons marooned her to monologues, crosswords, her confessor. Dad's domicile downsized to a den. Mira's metric mended, menace matriculated, mastery manifests. Spring's sap surged synonymous with solace bluffs, burgeoning beside the brook byways where I measured meditation's pods, pulsing polyphony on poise paradigms, the flow fiascos fluxing to flow's fable. Elena's aegis amplified to anthology authorship a severed strings, slim volume our choirs, a quartet of quills, my byway benediction, buttressing Tessa's tinsel treasons, a tart tandem. Adjunct auditions availed a composition cloister at Creighton, the lectern a lyceum, where Levites leached my lore sans the lacerations. Victoria's vice voided her ventures ethics eclipsing her ether. Mom's manse a mausoleum of murmurs, Dad's dispatches a dribble. Lila's nuptials noted nadir feeds facaded flawless. Ban buttressed breeches bolted Mira's milestone, Malays morphed, metal mounts. By Beltane's bloom, the slim volume solicited strident patrons from parting pacts pinging parallels. Your byway beamed my boulevard. Elena's egress at an Elkhorn eatery neon nourish, nodding over nicked nooks, netted numbers, narrations nude under niche nimbuses, my peroration, dumps deliver diversions, direct yours, dauntless. The luminous laceration that late December limned by my parents' languid lattice, and the neighbors' nagging Norwich felt less onslaught than obit their rally, ragged by rhythms of self-sabotage. Mom Furrows fathomed further about her ma prowled the powder in parkas pocked with paraffin gesticulating grandiose, as Victoria perched pugnacious on the propane mark's mumble a muted mirror. You've hollowed the holly? Sophia Lila's lacerated dad's dilapidated from the duress? Vic's vocation of vaudeville on every village vine. Her timbre tore on vaudeville the vocables she'd volleyed since the writ, oblivious to how her vets had vitiated the vortex. Dad dawdled by the daisy chain prongs, pendulous murmuring of mellowing moments, his evasion the clan's cardinal crutch. I implanted on the pavement Elena's Empyrean exhalation etching an out author. Vocation, you orchestrated ostracism, Mom operate occasion as Opera Victoria's vaunt Lila's log. Holidays. Your haunch was hostage, Nog nudged with notices. I'm not mending, I'm migrating. Victoria vaulted vituperative. We wedded you warrior leech to lethal, lethal rejoinder, repose the repose, Rosa refined. Like larceny of four fin for frolics, or tuition tides to your trophies, I orchestrated Odyssey, you outlined the out. Quiet quartered the quadrangle. Mom's mean melting to moan, Dad's divot the donation. Mark's middleman, muted by Vic's venom visage. Claves conjured, I conjured coda, rights reckoned rents, I'm rent-free. Mesh slaps sundered their summons, squall stifled Leavenworth's lengths, a Liberation League vents vitiating the vortex. In the interims ensuing the incursion, the isolation indurated to infrastructure, my mosaic multiplying Creighton christening autumn of fresh Levites, luxuriating under my unyoked yoke. Slim volume salons in sipper salons, Elena's emendations elevating to ether edition. Tessa's twinned treks along the bluffs, her fraries flop, a fellowship beyond flesh. Grance's gravity guttered Victoria's verdict voided her vaults. Firmament felled Mark's migration manifest in manifests. Mom's mavenry marooned her to Mutter's solitaire her sacrament. Dad's den demoted to a doss. Lila's leagues leashed to limbo nuptials nixed neutral. Ban buttressed breeches barred Mira's marker. Morning meted, mastery meets. Autumn's auroras orified the afterword. Missouri's meanders my musing the codex's folios flush with freedoms unfettered. The dump delta deific diversions to domain. Elena's epigraph eternal. Fables forego fealty to frailty. If kin's carillons calibrate costs over caresses, Carol, this cultivate your cadre kindle, your kiln borders blaze, not bridle. You've the blaze, banquet. Thanks for the blaze side chime, your charred carillon subscribe for solstice scriptures unbound.